Okay, we will bring this meeting to order, March 24th, second of two meetings in March. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right.
All right. Well, first of all, before we get to any part of the agenda, it's great to see so many people here. This is about what I can do. So anyway, I read in the paper where Oscoda had 6. I guess this is a difference. So welcome to Oscoda Township. You're truly very welcome. So okay, next roll call, please.
Mr. Hinckley.
Here.
Ms. McGuire. Here. Mr. Gajewski.
Here.
Mr. Binkowski.
Here.
Ms. Carrasco. Here. Mr. Weed.
Here.
Mr. Byer.
Here. Okay, next item on our agenda, and I'm guessing, do a few of you have the agenda? Or nobody? A few. Okay.
There's a whole stack of them. I brought in a whole stack if anybody needs them.
All right. Anyway, the next item is the agenda additions. Is there anybody that has anything that they wish to add to the agenda?
Jim, I'd like to revisit the sound booth if we could.
Okay. Okay with the rest of the board?
Yes.
Sounds good. Well, let's, yeah, other, even though it doesn't show up on here, but right after resolutions and ordinances, so. Okay. All right. Just a quick note, even though this is not the next thing, in Oscoda Township we have 2 public comment periods. One pretty soon, but not right now, and the other one at the end. The first one, we ask that you fill out a card and step up to the podium. Bob, I believe if there are any cards available, he has them. And you have 4 minutes to speak. And then we move on to whoever else wishes to speak. We don't want to be here till 11 o'clock or something, so there is a limit to that. And then at the end, we have another public comment where you don't need to fill out a card. It's a little less formal. So, okay. The next item, before we get to public comment, we have a presentation regarding fireworks, and from the Fireworks Fundraising Committee. And who is going to speak for the Fireworks Fundraising Committee? Sharon?
On behalf of Mary Wright.
Well, you were in on this before she was.
She bailed to Florida.
Mary Wright was going at this. First of all, I'd like to thank you for adding this to the agenda. Our hopes were that if we brought something new to the table, to the board, you may reconsider the vote that took place moving the fireworks. And with your permission, I'd like to read the letter that was submitted. I think you all got them in your board packets. The Oscoda Township Board voted on Monday, March 10th, 2014 to change the venue for the 4th of July fireworks from Shoreline Park to Van Etten Lake. The reason given for the change was to provide a bigger and better show. Since that vote, many concerned citizens have voiced their disappointment at the change of site. The committee would like to offer a proposal and hope you will consider this in the spirit it is intended. The community at large will donate $3,000 towards the cost of fireworks display. The $3,000 added to the Oscoda and Osable Township's contribution of $10,000 brings the total to $13,000. Compared to the $8,000 that was spent last year, we have dramatically increased the ability to put on a more spectacular display at Shoreline Park on Lake Huron, thus fulfilling the board's wishes of providing a bigger and better show. The pledge of $3,000 reflects a desire and hope that we can continue to work together to provide an event that we all can take pride in. We respectfully ask that you reconsider your vote and return the fireworks to Shoreline Park.
Okay, that's what's in the letter. You survived. Anything else you'd care to elaborate about this plan?
Just here to, you know, it's kind of took off. It was, I guess, a grassroots efforts. You know, as soon as the vote took place, you know, you started hearing from your neighbors and community members, citizens, and I think it reflects the passion, you know, Lake Huron, Shoreline Park, and that was our hope to, you know, keep it where it's at. And, you know, I tell you, just the response that everybody, there wasn't really a lot of pulling arms. I mean, people were stepping up. We'll donate. If you want a bigger and better show, we'll help. You really, I think you woke up a lot of people, you know. And the easy thing is, and a lot of people agreeing, you know, when you realize that most cities, most townships don't even contribute to fireworks. We already have an amazing amount of seed money, you know, with our townships, Osable Township and Oscoda Township. So, you know, we thought, you know what, instead of screaming, maybe we'll put some money into the pot. You might realize how passionate we really are about keeping the fireworks where they are.
Is IMSA here tonight?
She's in Gladwin piano for
Okay.
Ethan.
Yeah. If I can add just a little bit to the background of this, and you correct me anywhere, jump in. But you and IMSA was the day after our last meeting, so this goes back 2 weeks. It's not just the last few days. It goes back 2 weeks, and IMSA was talking to me after a DDA meeting. We're both members of that, and she mentioned, can you run this by your board again? And then you and I talked for 3 straight days.
Yeah, I know. He's on speed dial.
So,
And Christy.
but
My pleasure.
anyway, this again was 2 weeks ago, and but both you and IMSA said, can we run this through again? And my answer to both of you was, yes, but it can't be the same thing, or I'll have board members on my case here saying we did this already. It's settled, Jim. And I said, so we have to change it a little bit. We have to modify it. It's the same basic idea, but and both of you, you know, we talked about what would change it best. And I said, well, you know, if people are as riled up as they say they are, let's, you know, it's a crude expression, but put your money where your mouth is, you know. And so that's a little cruder than I would like, but
Hey,
that can
there's
be.
been a lot.
But anyway, so we talked about it and said, well, what? I said if people came up with contributions, it would surely get my attention. I can't speak for the rest of the board. But, and then I was asked by one of you, well, what kind of money are you talking about? And I said, well, not a couple of $100 or something. And I just throw out the figure 3,000 or 4,000, would sure, you know, point out that they're pretty serious. And so they said, surprisingly, they said to me, give that a shot. Might be doable. And then if I have this right, it was just 3 or 4 days later, you called and said, Jim, got the money.
Yeah.
Really? So,
Doesn't leave you guys off the hook for now putting your pledges in cash.
so anyway, that's where I stand on the thing. I said that certainly would get my attention, and it has. This fund drive is still open?
Yes, we just got permission from the Oscoda Chamber to be the entity that, you know, we can put the money into, and then they can, you know, be the go-between.
Okay.
Are you thinking this is gonna be an ongoing thing? every
Yes,
year?
I think, yeah, I mean, like I said, when it, you know, it's like, you know, sometimes you just get so day in, day out, you don't even think, but it's kind of spirited us to all kind of, yeah, we'd like to make this a yearly thing, and by no means do we want it to be misconstrued like, oh, the township doesn't have to pay anymore,
No.
because we can't do that. I mean, but if we can all, you know, the people, we have people from downstate that are visitors here that will chip in, you know, it's huge.
So you're gonna keep it at 3,000, or are you gonna go further?
That's, I mean, right now, that's what we feel we can confidently say this year, but I think when you can see what we can do together, I think, I already have volunteers that are really good at fundraising, and who knows what we can do. I mean, you know, if we can raise it by 60% in 1 year, see what that does. I think it can really spur on, and then you know, it puts it in the work programs. You start thinking about it year round, and I think it's kind of exciting. It kind of woke everybody up, and we're all like, I think, jazzed to see what we can do together.
Well, I talked to both you and IMSA and said that, you know, we have to understand each other, you know, for us to go through this again. You need not to say, we will go out and raise this. You have it now.
Yes.
Yes.
Not
Okay.
in our pockets.
I
We
understand.
they couldn't write the checks out, but
Pop,
yes.
pop bottles out in the car, right?
Yes.
So-
And, you know, and because everything's happening so fast, honestly, you know, you start brainstorming, it's like, okay, say you end up with 10,000. We sure wouldn't want to hand that all over in 1 year, because if you have a lean year, you know, then you really have to talk, you know, legalities. Do you save some? Do you, I mean, but that's all, I mean, we're talking for July 4th this year right now.
Right.
But yeah, I think we have to maintain that. We have to maintain, you know, helping the townships, you know, do this.
Any other questions of Sharon from the board? Everybody understand what she's saying? And once again, for those in the audience, we are not trying to weasel out of the 10,000. This is, you're donating money to yourselves, really. I mean, it's adding, if they have 3,000 or they got 3,200 right now or whatever, that's in addition to the 10 that the two townships. We're not gonna renege on what we said we would get. And and that, I mean, right now, that's $5,000 more than we spent last year on fireworks. Last year it was 8,000, so now we're up to 13,
13.
and going.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't want to say.
sure. I understand.
Yeah.
But somebody stepped up to the plate, because it was just a matter of a few days, and you called me back and said, we're all set.
Yep.
So, okay, if there's no other
I
questions.
had a question.
Sure.
I noticed that like in all the flyers and different things, and the main concern for everybody with a lot of issues was keeping it on Lake Huron in general. And-
At the shoreline. Well, for us, we've maintained shoreline pit.
Okay.
Shoreline
So if-
Park on Lake
Because coming
Huron,
up in the agenda further is another alternative that was brought to light that's a very good possibility to work towards. So are you saying that you wouldn't contribute $3,000 to that effort either? Or
What
you just-
effort is? We don't know.
The effort would, coming up in the agenda is a third alternative to have a barge out at the Oscoda Beach Park and have the fireworks from there. And it would kind of address everybody's concerns that had been previously mentioned in the paper and at the Asabo board and everything else.
As Mr. Byer knows, not real good shooting from the hip, but my concern with just answering that at this point, the monies that have been pledged have been contingent on Shoreline Park. I would be concerned that they feel that, because I would imagine a barge is gonna cost put a dent in that 13,000.
Correct.
No,
There,
no,
Well-
it's
no.
separate.
When we talk about the next proposal, I make it very clear, I understand from working with you and IMSA that those contributions were for more fireworks, not popcorn taken out of it or a barge or a
Right.
tugboat. I understand that, and so your $3,000 or whatever you have, go for fireworks, and I'm fine with that. So,
Right.
And I can only say at this point, I mean, we would have, the people are, it's Shoreline Park is the only thing that has been brought to the table with those funds.
Because on the petitions, it said Lake Huron.
The
You know-
petitions, was a totally different, this is after the petitions.
Well, but that's
I'm
what-
addressing the,
Right, but that's what Davis,
Yeah.
The main thing said Lake Huron.
I think, and I'm not speaking for them, but I kind of think when we think of Lake Huron, Shoreline Park is Lake Huron, I don't think we differentiate one beach to the, I don't know.
yeah.
Don't
Proponents
kill
of,
me. Yeah,
proponents of Oscoda Beach Park are not gonna be happy, I mean,
Of
down
us.
here. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I know. I don't know who's kidding anymore. But no, alls I can say at this point is the money that is pledged is for Shoreline Park, Lake Huron.
So if
Bringing
we
it
could
back
raise-
to where it was.
in between now and July 4th, if we could raise enough money for the barge itself that would not affect your $3,000, would you be willing to do that?
I can't answer that. I feel that the $3,000 only has weight if it's combined with
Oh, and it would be.
$10,000
And it
worth
still
of
would be.
fireworks.
Right.
Fireworks, not
Correct.
$10,000.
Right.
Correct.
But that's what we would have to go back to the committee, but.
And I would like, and I wanna thank Mary Jo for bringing, at their last board meeting to remind everybody, you know, that it was all about making the show bigger and better.
Yeah.
And trying to address a few of the safety different issues and a couple, other issues that, people are having with, so. When this second alternative that's being brought on later in the meeting, it kinda addresses, the historic point of it about that's really originally where all the fireworks were always shot off from. The safety issue and the Rotary and the Lions, they wouldn't have to leave or pack up or go anywhere else, they'd be all right down there, it'd keep people right in town. It would address all the business owners' considerations because it would be right here. And the barge would be far enough
Point
out
of
in the
order.
water to,
She's not speaking to the commenting board now, she's presenting an entirely new idea on her comment.
And we're gonna do that in greater depth next, as soon as we're done here, so.
but I just was saying,
Yeah.
in order to do that, my point basically, I'm sorry, is, in the working together. So I would like to see the committee, a representative from the township and from both townships work together on something to come up with a solution.
I think they'd be open to work on it, it seems like a lot to bite off at this late.
What I was
day.
thinking was maybe just this year, because my main concern, after talking with the police department, was they were fearful of a safety issue down there, especially with road construction. Which is why I thought Van Etten, but if this one comes, this eliminates that issue that's right there at the road construction, so that was my concern, was the safety.
I'm sorry, but I can't, these are all debatable things.
Oh, I know.
We were going from a simple, keep it where it was, there were no problems, there were no complaints at Shoreline Park. All the issues, I shouldn't even be talking, because I have to talk, I have other people, it's
Yeah,
not
we
me.
understand that.
All the issues you brought up were the same things that went, like if it's downtown, when it was at Shoreline Park, it didn't matter that it was at Shoreline Park. I don't know how to say that.
Well,
Right.
this other thing that's gonna come up is in the infancy, it is
Yeah.
not a done deal or locked in.
Right.
And
We're
as
just
long as you
investigating.
understand that I think, from what I'm getting, is I can only, at this point, commit money if it's at Shoreline Park.
Okay,
That's-
thank you.
And I'm not, I think, if in your heart of hearts, if you reconsider, I don't think it's a big deal. After the fact, maybe August, September, you sit down and you talk about for next year, what, you know, anything's, you know,
Sure.
discussable.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
And I appreciate you taking the time to hear stuff.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, we are going to, since we have a presentation about fireworks, and in the regular agenda, for those of you that have the sheet, you will notice under reports, superintendent, letter A is about contract for fireworks bids. Mr. Stalker is going to present to us, and it just seemed common sense that as long as we're going to talk about fireworks, we might as well do it together instead of spread it out all over the place. So with the board's permission, I think right at this point we will go to just the one item, 1A from superintendent regarding the bids and fireworks. Go ahead.
I will plow ahead.
We have to do those first because there's a couple, or no? No, okay.
As indicated, I have an item in my report this evening that addresses the receipt of fireworks bids, and we actually received one last Wednesday, the 19th of March, from Great Lakes Fireworks. This is the vendor that the township has used for the past several years. They're the folks who hosted the Red, White, and Blue Festival on Benetton Lake when the chamber did it. As I think everybody is aware, the original solicitation called for a $10,000 budget, with the location being Ratliff Park, and specified that based on prior experience, the most appropriate means to launch would probably be off the water. As has just been indicated, I did do some investigation regarding another potential approach, and at risk of delving into what's obviously a controversial topic. That specific notion would be to launch the fireworks off a barge on Lake Huron. I made inquiry with a vendor, and they've done this for several other communities with good result, and that led to discussion about the costs involved, and they're not insignificant, as you might imagine. The barge itself and required tugboat, they're guessing the cost would range between $2,500 and $4,000. They would expect the cost to be closer to $4,000. They attempted to actually locate a suitable contractor so we could have specificity in terms of our discussion this evening. They've been unable to do that. So if we were going to proceed with this notion, we would need to pin the cost down and the availability. That's a question mark, and I think it's probably important that everybody be aware of that. In terms of specific site, based on discussion to date, it would appear that the Oscoda Beach Park would be a good alternative, proximity to downtown. At least this year, separation from the highway construction, separation from watercraft navigation routes, i.e. the mouth of the river, and ample beachfront viewing opportunity. And the ultimate goal here would be to get the over-the-water fireworks effect that at least I perceive people found so attractive at Ratliff Park. Having said that, the Shoreline Park and our long-standing location there would also offer a similar aesthetic benefit if you launched off the water, but both the Coast Guard representative and the vendor indicated that it would be best to stay away from regularly traveled watercraft routes. So probably could get a permit, but they suggested we stay away from there. But I should be clear that nobody said we couldn't get a permit for that location. So it is a potential option when and if we wanted to pursue this notion. An obvious downside is vulnerability to weather. I was told that they have seen some shows cancel in the past. It's not often. It takes a pretty turbulent waterfront to make that happen, but it does happen. In this case, we have Saturday as a potential fallback, the way the days fall this year, so that could be considered a plus. And another obvious negative is what we just talked about. You would be diverting a significant amount of resources from the show itself to the tug and barge. The counter argument to that is that you can design a unique show with a wide variety of fireworks that wouldn't be possible off land. So there's a trade-off there. When I pressed the vendor on that question, they said it's pretty much a jump ball. They might opt towards the waterfront launch, but it's definitely a matter of opinion. So I just bring this up as another potential option given the discussion to date. It's not a certainty, but it looks like we would have a good chance of being able to implement it if a barge could be located. The other thing I should note is we would need a permit from the Coast Guard. There is a long lead time on that, I think 135 days. We're within that time frame, but the Coast Guard representative in Detroit indicated if we made application, they thought we could be successful. But we would want to do that right away just to preserve the option if it's even a point of discussion moving forward. Having said all that, hopefully in raising the concept, I'm not complicating the issue further. If nothing else, it may be a topic for future discussion in terms of a possible venue. If we are not going to consider a Lake Huron barge launch, then we're obviously back to Ratliff Park or the longstanding Shoreline Park location. When all's said and done, I think it's important that we let the vendor know that we want to engage their services for the 4th of July, given that we only have one proposal at this point. And then we'll have to work on nailing down the amount and the location, the budget amount. They indicated that they are a wholesaler of fireworks, so that the budget amount is probably not as critical as the location and ultimately the type of fireworks that would be needed to host a specific show.
All right, Bob, thank you. Do we have questions about this third proposal? The first being what we voted on 2 weeks ago, the second being what Sharon explained, and the third is what Bob just did. There will be a public comment thing in a minute, but any board members have a comment? So, okay.
Right, well, like the fundraising committee that they mentioned that they have.
Yeah.
And a few people had contacted me saying they were never asked for a donation and that they would give money also. But I think that, and I would be willing to help with that cause this year and also in the following years as well. But I thought it was prudent for me to ask the board if that would be okay as me doing it as the treasurer on behalf of Oscoda Township.
You mean it's part of your duties, like a big jar on the counter or something like that? Is that?
Not, well, my own personal duties. I mean, even though I represent the township 24/7, I would consider it doing something for the community because it was my idea, I guess, to begin with for the better show, so.
I think that'd be better kept on through a private organization.
Yeah.
Okay, but I could steer those people that wanted to donate to.
Oh, sure, sure.
To the committee
Sure.
that wants to do it.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Any other questions of Bob? Now, you're talking, your proposal is a new one. We don't have this ironed out yet. We don't know the final cost, but you're talking about a barge, not a raft, right?
Right.
Yep. So a little bit more substantial with probably 3 or 4 anchors on it, and so anyway.
I'm not keen on the idea of a barge on Lake Huron because if the water conditions aren't right, then we end up with a delay where it could possibly end up still being held on land. Plus, it's the extra $4,000 into it. Either has to be additionally raised for it, or cut out of some other portion of what we already supply.
And Bob, you said the range of cost for this would be ranges from 2,500 up to 4.
That
Four
was
is the high.
the vendor's estimate. That was not an operator.
Yeah.
So they attempted to secure those costs and they haven't been able to do it yet.
Not yet. Okay. So 4 is an okay number to throw around, but it definitely is not, the final number at all. Anyway.
The only other thing I have to add to that, my concern was the Lake Huron issue to begin with, which is why I didn't think it was even a viable option. That's why it was never even brought up in the first place. But when Bob had talked to the company and said that they do this on Lake Huron for quite a few different entities, and they have a few times where they've had to cancel. At least this year we have a fallback date for Saturday, where in next year maybe we won't have that. So I guess that's kind of my idea of trying to do it this year. So if the weather isn't good for this year or for Friday night, then we have Saturday night to try to do it again on the same weekend while everybody is still in town and everything else. So we have an extra day to kind of play with to give it a try. And it takes care of some of the other issues like Chris was mentioning, as far as like the safety issue. You're not going to have that next year because the construction will be done hopefully, and they'll leave us alone for a while so people can come and go to Oscoda pretty freely. But it's just an opportunity to try it for this year and just see.
Okay.
My only concern about Shoreline Park still, even if we put the extra money into it, the visibility still is not going to be there. You're not going to see it. From where? From the Oscoda Yacht Club, from sitting just back off of on Smith Street, from sitting on Oscoda Beach Park. I have sat there and I have sat at the yacht club for the last how many years?
Take a vote.
Okay, guys, please.
I've seen it and had people sit all around me and say how crappy the show is and what a waste of money. Can't you do something about this? Sat at Oscoda Beach Park to get a better view from it last year, down where the pier was and everything, and you can see the high ones. Like I went over the statistics of the shows that they shoot off. Out of 624 of them, you can only see 131 of them from any great distance because of the tree line and because of the different angle. Maybe a little bit further up by 3 Mile Park, you're sitting out a little better, you'd maybe be able to see a little bit more. But from sitting from Oscoda Beach Park, I had the same problem last year. Everybody around me was complaining, that's ridiculous, I can't sit. I can't believe I sat here for 15 minutes for this. I can't believe we're wasting our taxpayers' money for this. Can't you do something about this?
Jamie,
I add
I
to-
would say, just quick, if somebody is watching the fireworks where they've been for a few years and they don't like it and they can't see, move.
Can't get in and out of the parking lot. It's
And-
congested, there's one way in and one way out.
Yeah.
Where are these
Okay.
people right now?
All right, folks, please, really, it's our turn here, okay? So, anybody else? Rick, you had something you wanted to say?
A couple things to add to Jamie. I agree. I go up my boat and watch them almost every year. I've sat at the yacht club. There is a big difference. I mean, if you go out in the water and watch them, there's a huge difference. You get to see them all. But it's still a good show. I mean, and I agree with Aaron. I mean, spending $4,000 on a barge in the time frame for this year, I don't think it's possible. I would like to see it. I mean, I really like the idea of a committee getting together between Osable and Oscoda and the fireworks committee
Okay, but why
working
bother
together.
if everybody wants to just keep it at Shoreline Park? What's
Well,
the
that's
point
what
of
I'm saying.
looking
If
at
we
a
can
different-
work with a committee and get something, I
And
think,
you never know, something might fall into place. We've been looking for barges. And there's possibly one in Alpena. We're not talking about dragging something up from Saginaw or something, and that all has to do with the price. So anyway, we right now the most solid proposal is the one that you heard Mrs. Ostrander talk about here. And I'm not looking for applause, please. That takes up a lot of time. So anyway,
So,
go ahead. What?
so would it make the people happy that if we stayed with Shoreline Park for this year? had a committee together, let me finish, please. Had a committee together, like I said, with the fundraising committee, person from that or the whole group, somebody from Oscoda Township, because it is about our community as a whole, and we need to make it a better thing, because they really are bad, seriously, we need to improve it. And, have somebody from Oscoda Township, you know, and if they're willing, because they think it's too late for this year to do that, and we can't get the barge or that kind of thing to try it, just to try it and see if it's different or if it benefits, you know, everybody as a whole. And, you know, and then try it down there next year, work towards trying to at that location. Forget about Venetton totally, and go ahead and go, you know what, let's give it a try at Oscoda Beach Park. I would be willing to go for that and help the committee myself. I wouldn't have any problem with that.
Okay, all right. You know, I have an interest. I have an interest two ways in Bob's idea. Number one is, you know, unless you guys and the people in the paper and so forth, I mean, weren't saying what they really thought. I mean, I have a copy of the paper here, and there were at least 2 stories in the recent paper, and I went through, and other than the editor's introduction to the poll, which was 56 people out of 9,000. That's 0.6%. But other than the editor's intro to that, I counted 16 times where people were writing in and their comments referred to Lake Huron. And I didn't find one time in here that it said it had to be a certain part of Lake Huron or a certain beach in Lake Huron. 16 times it said. So folks, and my other concern, and it will always be, is this construction thing. You know, but I assume, you guys are asking us a lot of stuff. Can I ask you, can I turn this around? I've been on record at many meetings that the construction, our police, as Jamie alluded to, have said that F-41 is quite a bit less dangerous than US 23, not even adding the construction. So what I'd like to ask you guys, okay, because you are asking us, so it's fair, right? I'd like to see a show of hands. How many people think that the danger in the construction should not be one of the top considerations when we vote? It should not be. How many people? Well, let's turn it around. Let's start again. How many? Let's do it a simpler way. How many of you in this room think that my concerns about construction and danger?
Point of order. This vote is.
No, sir. I'm sorry.
In this forum, in this manner.
I'm sorry, but I thought it would be. I thought it would be fair to ask you guys something. So,
It's against Robert's Rules of Order.
we don't follow Robert's rule. We never have.
Sort of forum. Really?
So, guys, how many of you in here, just with a raise of hand, think that the construction concerns, danger, and so forth, are not an issue? Are not an issue. Not an issue.
It wasn't an issue in 2012
Okay.
when we didn't have a vote.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Now, the other way, how many in here with a show of hands think that, agree with me, that the danger on the road should be an issue? 1, 2. The danger is an issue that we should really concern strongly. 2 hands. Okay. So, Ann, approximately how many people are there in the room?
Earlier when I counted, there was about 68.
68 people, and 2 out of 68 think that danger is a key thing. So, okay, I just want to put this on you guys, all right? That's the purpose, okay? So, okay. I just wanted to know where we were on this, all right? I am ready for a motion,
I
yes.
make a motion that we keep the fireworks at Shoreline Park fired from the land, and using also the contribution from the community, and just return return it back to the way it was, but improve the show with that additional contribution.
Aaron, are you also gonna put down that we hire or contract with Great Lakes Fireworks in this?
Correct. We are declaring
That's the
this,
key motion.
that we hire the only contractor that volunteers.
And I will support that motion.
Okay. Any,
Without looking into maybe trying to.
Like we said
I think the
earlier.
Friends of the
Not the motion,
Fireworks
not the
Committee-
motion.
The Friends of the Fireworks Committee, and anybody else that wants to get with that group can coordinate something else that maybe they can come up with a different, improved show for next year, but this is for this year.
okay.
And if things change next year, so be it, but let's keep it where it's at. We have a lot bigger fish to fry. We have a sewer system that badly needs money, probably $3 million to keep it properly, to get it fixed up to a proper level. We have a fire department that has another truck that needs to get funded to get replaced, and that's gonna be very difficult to contend with. We have a water system that's got frozen lines and it's leaking. We gotta work on that kind of stuff. Here we are dealing with an issue that is entertainment for 1 hour a year, while these other issues deal with 365 days a year. And I think that we just need to leave the fireworks alone and press on with our other matters.
Other people that still don't have water and have been without water for over. Motion on the floor.
Okay. Any further comment from the board? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Winkowski?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
No.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco? I'm still concerned about safety, but it's not worth it. Yes. Mr. Byer?
Yes. Okay, motion has passed. Okay, folks, please. Now, it is time for public comment, and do we have any cards?
We do. Kay Kaiser would like to talk about repairing a private road.
Okay,
The people with the fireworks issue wants to come first, that's fine with me.
no,
Okay.
Okay.
there's no.
Thank you, my name is Kay Kaiser, I live in Oscoda Township, Iosco County. I live on a private road, I've been to the township. They told me that it's not even the name that's on my driver's license. I've called the road commission, they told me either to get a lawyer, they have nothing to do with private roads. I don't even know if this is where I need to be, but I've gathered signatures from the residents. I right now cannot even get into my driveway on my street, which is Oakland Road, also known by the township as Oakland Street. and it adjoins Pinecrest Trail, which is maintained by the Habitat for Humanity from the back entrance off of River Road. My brother, when I moved in, had had it completely leveled and had the big rock gravel put down. There are holes bigger than the floor of this room right now where trucks, I got stuck twice myself this week, people from the school bus coming down our private road. I've talked to them, they claim they're going to stop, but in the 4 years, I guess my question is, other than getting a lawyer, is there anything you guys can do to help us keep our road private and help get it back to where we can drive on it again so I can get to my house?
Is the road she's talking about a private road, or is it a public maintained road, or?
It's on the plat book as private.
Yeah.
I went to the township more than once. I could not reach the zoning board person. I've called several times, no answer, not even a message. Machine picked up. I have signatures of the residents that live back there.
Tell me again where this Oakland Street
Directly across from Oscoda High School. Pinecrest Trail meets it, and they used to turn around in the cul-de-sac of the next road up, which I think is called Pinecrest Drive, I do believe. And for years now, they've proceeded to just continue, and the kids don't even have to walk a half a city block, let alone a country block. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
I don't know if I'm at the wrong spot, but I just need some help to get to my house.
Why don't you, you know, we're taking notes of this too, but I'm not sure if it's a total private or public road, but some private roads that we've talked about, not yours, but the people that live on it contribute to fill in holes and stuff, and the plowing and all of that.
We've done that, but the
okay.
continued use has made it to where even trucks, I'm talking not S10s, regular trucks are having to be towed out as of this week.
Okay.
Because of the bus use.
Yes, the bus
School
has,
bus that's
you can't even see the big gravel that my brother put down anymore. It's so pounded into the soil.
I'm sounding like I'm passing the buck here, but roads are, you know, the county road commission.
I've been
out on
trying to
55.
contact everyone, that's why I'm here. I could never reach it.
Have you gotten through to the road commission?
They told me to get a lawyer, and I have not that financial
It
option.
shouldn't be that intense, yeah. So,
Who's the lawyer gonna, to sue somebody, or?
I guess, because in my opinion, I mean, Habitat for Humanity's taking care of the other private entrance off River Road. My brother has maintained from my property line up to River Road on the other end, and it's so bad right now, you can't even drive on it at all. Today, example, a chair of mine broke. The guy had to walk from River Road with a dolly to deliver that chair to my residence. And that's wrong. He had to risk his, you know, falling on the ice, whatever. It's just, I shouldn't have to do that, and no one else should on a private road.
You should make more efforts, and I will too, okay, I promise you, but you gotta promise me you will too. Call the Iosco County Road Commission, it's 362.
I have it. But
Is
I
it
will-
4433 or?
Yes.
And probably Michelle will be the first person you talk to.
I think that's who I did speak to.
Ask, you
But
know.
I'll try again. I
Try
appreciate
again.
your time and
Okay.
effort, especially on this important night.
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to talk about roads.
Well, we don't,
Thank you for the break. Okay, other cards?
Steve Malik would like to talk about fireworks, if he's still here.
I guess Steve left.
Tammy Dumaresque, same subject. And Ann Dennis, fireworks.
Okay, that's it.
That's it. Yes.
Okay, moving on. Then the consent agenda is the next item, approval of the minutes from our March 10 meeting. Anybody have a problem with the minutes at all? Okay, hearing none. Payment of bills, $87,640.83. Anybody see anything in the bills that they wish to question or comment on? Once again, hearing none. Reports, the third part of our consent agenda. Mr. Stalker has 3 items. Work session reminder, we don't need to, go over that. Invoice for John Henry's involvement in the big excavation of River Road by the bridge this winter, a few weeks ago. And the purchase of the lift station number 4 VFD purchase. Any questions about any of that? Appears that the VFD purchase is a little cheaper than we thought, which is good news. So, okay, then I need a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved. Support.
Okay, moved by Mr. Gajewski and supported by Mr. Binkowski. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Ms. Gasko, yes. Mr. Minkowski?
Yes.
Mr. Hinkley?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes. Okay, next is the superintendent's report. We've already taken care of item A, so let's move into your second item, B.
Yes, this is an update relative to the discussion with FVOP regarding non-routine services. In short, we have not had a meeting with the company. We've met amongst the township representatives that are going to participate in the discussion, but we've, based on a vacation on their side and some difficulty coordinating schedules on our side, we haven't been able to get a meeting together, but hopefully we'll do that in the very near future. The other question here is regarding the meter reading cycle and whether we want to consider once again estimating bills. When I had put my report together, FVOP was suggesting we do just that. Based on discussion earlier today, they are a little less inclined to suggest that. It's basically a value judgment. We've got 8 customers, and this is in reference to the email communication on the board table, 8 customers who have frozen service lines where the dwelling unit is their primary residence, and another 10 where they're seasonal or non-primary residence units. And what was indicated to me is probably in terms of getting the 8 thawed, probably if we do not estimate the bills and we read the meters this month, it'll push the timing out for those folks another week or so beyond where we would be if we devoted all of our efforts to thawing those lines. So that's essentially the judgment that needs to be made and the direction that we need to consider giving them. On the other hand, if there are broken water lines, broken meters, and unaccounted for water loss occurring, or if there is in the system, it's going to be another month before we discover it. So we've got a kind of a balancing act here. In terms of the 10 customers who are not in primary residences, I indicated that I felt, given what we have on our plate, that we would allow nature to take its course there and let them thaw as the weather warms up this spring, but that's a point of potential discussion as well.
Okay, do we have any thoughts from the board about it's basically a balancing act, which gets priority, the actual reading of meters for a second month, or take care of the frozen people first?
Definitely take care of the frozen people first.
Me
Does the
also.
frozen have water? I mean, have they been hooked up with hoses? Does
Some,
everybody have water?
I think some have been, but not all, I don't think.
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, there's 8, so
Yeah.
have those 8 done or not?
Don't know. I would suspect that there are, if history to date with this whole scenario is a guide, some do not have water, but I don't know exactly how many.
And yeah, there's issues with because they're running garden hoses from their neighbor's house to their house, and even with some of the cold weather, they've still been freezing up, and so, and these people have been without water, like I'm saying, for 4 to 6 weeks in different places and trying to get their lines thawed out and different things. I I know we estimated the bills last year, and BSNA was really good about working with Jessica and stuff. It's a little hairy with those people, especially that have the garden hoses running from house to house, because we've been keeping track of it and going back and actually reading those to make sure those people are getting the credits that they deserve. And trying to keep track of all that's a little different, but as far as estimating again, the only problem I can see with that is because we have quite a few snowbirds that are gone, and we've had phone calls this month saying, I just got my bill, I wasn't here last month, how could have I used any water? Well, we had estimated off their January bill, which was actually their December's usage. So we explained it to them and showed them on the bill where there's actual readings and then the estimated readings, and they understood it. And BSNA will be able to work with us in order to get the accurate readings balanced out and give those people the credits that they need to have. So I don't see a big problem with doing it again. We've got a pretty good handle on it, I think.
But my only concern would be if we estimate again, if somebody comes up in April with a $250,000 leak or a gallon leak, we don't stick it to them. That would be my only
Sure.
concern.
Yep.
Would be, hey, we might have caught it in February if we would have read, and we take it as a hit on us as opposed to them. That would be my only concern.
We have for like the people that were having big issues anyways, and in the past, Jessica, when they actually do the actual readings and they go out and they find a snowbird or somebody that is not home for a short period of time, and she gets those high readings, she actually sends the guys right back out there to shut the water off, sent the people a letter, let them know that there's possibly something going on, or unfortunately, if the guys can actually hear the water running in the house or under the house, and they immediately shut the water off and they notify people too.
Okay, so there is a little solution to broken water line
Right.
that you can, maybe it's not the most
No,
accurate, but
right.
it's a good one
But
to
it's a
give you a
good
hint.
concern, like
Yeah.
Matt said too, you know, it's, we won't be catching some of them, but.
Yeah, I know personally that Jessica has contacted me here a couple years ago that she said, you're showing too much water and you better check,
She does a really
drips and
good
stuff
job
like
at
that.
that.
She does. She was right on it, so. Okay, so I would make a motion that we take care of all the frozen people first, the people that have frozen lines, whether it's on their property or whether it's our fault out in the street. Either way, let's get on with that. I mean, I can't imagine being out of water for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. Jeez.
Support.
Okay, motion has been made by Byers, supported by Mr. Weed. Any further comment?
Can I,
Okay, roll call, please.
I think Bob wanted to
Bob,
say
yes.
something.
well, in terms of the question as to whether it's the customer's responsibility or the township's, we've not been thawing anybody on their side of the property line, just for
Okay.
sake of clarification.
Okay, good, all right. Okay. Now, when we've gone out and determined where the bad spot is, do the people know that? Have we contacted them and said, you're frozen, but it's next to your house, it's your,
Right, it's on your property from the,
Only if they can get there soon enough, because if it's like a couple days before they can get there, at some point, you can't determine that either. It's frozen all the way back, so you can't tell if it started at the main or if it did start at their house either, so.
If you notice, there's a couple big holes around town, and I think it looks like at least one of them, they ran copper on top of the ground. They pulled the curb stop up and ran it up, and it was frozen on their side, but they tried to get water back to them and left a big hole in their driveway.
yeah.
But I mean,
Is that the
at
one
least
with the
they've got-
police tape all
There,
over?
yeah, there's two of them at least that have the police tape around them, yes.
Okay. All right, roll call on that.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Pankowski?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Mr. Nichols?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Mr. Byers?
Yes, motion passed. Next item deals with Lakeshore Energy, natural gas contract.
yes, we've purchased natural gas on a bulk basis for several years from Lakeshore Energy. They've proven to be a cost-effective supplier. We validated that last year when we did an analysis in comparison with the Michigan Municipal League bulk purchasing program. Our current contract expires at the end of the month with the company, and that is a NYMEX Plus based contract. We have in the past used that method and also a fixed contract. So I asked them for both alternatives, which are included with my report. The fixed is 53.5 cents per 100 cubic feet is what it actually is. The NYMEX is the NYMEX index plus a multiplier of 6.5 cents per 100 cubic feet. I asked them what their suggestion was in terms of the most cost-effective approach for us moving forward. They provided some information which I've detailed in my report that shows during the last contract year, the highest price we paid on average was 48.7 cents. And looking forward with the NYMEX contract, they're projecting next month 49.6 cents, and then the highest it would get is 52.56 cents in January of 2015. So bottom line in all that, I think, is that there is more risk with the NYMEX contract, but it appears as though we're likely to get rewarded for it, and that would be my suggestion.
Okay. Do we have any questions or opinions regarding Bob's recommendation regarding the natural gas vendor? And then if you wish to follow his suggested method here to renew the contract with Lakeshore Energy and have the fixed, is that right? The fixed rate that we can.
We want the NYMEX.
NYMEX.
Yes.
Okay, yes, all right. Anything? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Weed with support from Mr. Hinckley that we do go ahead with the NYMEX, NYMEX. It's an acronym, and I'm not sure what it does stand for. I'm sure that nobody knows, I guess. So, but we've used them, and it works for us. So, okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire? Yes. Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Mr. Roscoe, yes. Mr. Minkowski?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes, motion passed. Next refers to a development with some interpretive signage and other additions to our Riverbank Park, which is the park on River Road right by the bridge. We have 5 parks in Oscoda Township, that's one of them, but right out River Road, right by the bridge. It's the newest of our 5 parks.
Thank you. I think as everybody's aware, the Alcona-Iosco Soil Conservation District has been working on a regeneration and restoration project at Riverbank Park, and the gentleman who is leading the charge on behalf of the Conservation District contacted me recently to see if we would be supportive of them pursuing grant funding, which is generally, the purposes of which is generally outlined in the email communication that I put in my report. But basically, he's looking at putting up 25 signs of various sizes and potentially an information kiosk talking about non-timber forest products and with a mushroom gardening exhibit. He's trying to highlight the unique plants that are in the on the park property and create some interest to maybe draw tourists and further the original concept with removing the ash trees and restoring the native vegetation. So basically what I'm looking for this evening is the board's endorsement to cooperate with him in supporting and pursuing those grant funds. There would be no cost for the township.
Okay, once again for the audience, that park is much more extensive than you can see from your car window. It isn't just the canoe pickup place or the inner tube place or the picnic tables. It goes all the way around the bend. There are walking paths through there, and it's not just what you see. So, and
Actually,
yeah.
You can see a lot what they've done there already after
Yeah.
clearing the trees.
Yep.
And I'm excited about a mushroom farm because I've grown mushrooms and they're so neat, so I'm really excited to see that.
I'll make the motion that we cooperate with the Soil Conservation District.
Support.
Okay, motion by Ms. McGuire with support from Mr. Weed that we do cooperate with the Soil Conservation District. Mr. Beebe in particular. Roll call, please.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Pankowski?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Fire?
Yes. Next item deals with the operations. This is an annual operations plan by our director of Old Orchard Park that is kind of required by the owners of the land, which is Consumers Energy. So,
Yes. The lease actually with Consumers Energy specifically requires that we prepare an operations plan, and Mr. Apsitas has updated the plan, and I've attached the current iteration to my report, and I'm seeking endorsement for it prior to sending it on to consumers. The most notable changes are the change in the modern monthly fees from $20 to $23 per day per our discussion last year, and updates to the capital improvement schedule.
okay. Any questions or concerns regarding this? I think you've all had a chance to look through the very extensive plan, but okay. If I don't hear any further questions, I need a motion that we accept or approve the 2014 Old Orchard Park Operations Plan.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, moved by Ms. Carrasco with support from Mr. Hinckley that we do approve of the 2014 Old Orchard Park Operations Plan. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Pankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Mr. Fire?
Yes. Okay, next item, Warrior Pavilion, the replacement of the deck on the lake side, the Van Etten Lake side of Warrior Pavilion. Bob?
You might recall that we solicited bids for this project last year based on the concept being a concrete patio deck, which was in the capital improvement plan, and the bids were substantially higher than our cost estimate. So we set the project aside, as I understood it, based on the premise we were going to look at rebuilding the deck out of wood using our own building and grounds personnel. We have begun efforts then to implement the project with the hope that we could get moving when the weather broke. During the due diligence process, it was determined that we are going to be required to have engineered plans, since it's staff's assessment that the entire deck needs to be replaced, not just the top boards, if you will, the walking surface. We then obtained a proposal from Russo Engineering, and it is in an amount not to exceed $2,000, with the supposition that the actual cost will probably be closer to $1,500 when all's said and done, but there's no guarantee. That expenditure would fall within the purview of staff's authority under our purchasing policy, but I thought it appropriate to confirm that that's the direction that the board wanted to head before contracting with the engineer. Given the necessity now to do the engineering plans, order materials prior to moving ahead, it looks like we'll be doing this in the fall instead of this spring. So at this point, I'm looking for confirmation that rebuilding the deck is the desired course of action, with the understanding that we are going to need to get engineered drawings prepared in order to move that process forward.
We're gonna tear this right out, Bob, and then rebuild it?
Yes, that is my understanding. There are some concerns with the substructure in the ground and on the ground.
Thus the need for engineering, right?
Right.
Yeah, so.
And what kind of manning availability will we have during that project?
Well, in the fall, we should hopefully have most of our heavy summer lifting done, and at least a few of our regular employees would be directed to the project.
Biggest thing in the fall, correct me if I'm wrong, is getting the leaves out of the cemetery. That's one of the major, you know, so. We're gonna get some blowback from the DPW on that, so.
We may, and we may wind up retaining some of the seasonal people
Yep.
for
A little
a
extra
period.
work for
It
them.
might be
Right.
similar to what we did on the pier there a couple years ago, where they either brought in one or two people or kept a couple
Right.
people on. My question would be to Rick, what do you think about the engineering?
It's necessary,
Is it, okay, all right,
Yep.
just because there's so much public use of it.
okay, just
and
so
it's
everything,
liability on us.
all right.
Yeah, if you put a lot of money in new wood and then it starts to sink on you a little bit because the. Scary.
The specs call for wood, or we're gonna put something that will last forever. Man-made substance, what's they call that, laminate?
Just like a timber tech or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of wood.
But is the pricing gonna be feasible for that? Cause when I
Right.
priced that stuff, it was the same as brick.
Yeah, I know it's expensive, but we
That's,
gotta maintain wood once we put it in there too.
We put it as an option
Right.
on the bids, I would think.
Mhm.
that's
that
just the
time.
decking portion of
That's
it,
Yeah.
so
the
I
decking
don't see why
portion
not.
of it.
The decking as opposed, yeah.
Bob, do you have any idea if the present wood on Warrior Pavilion deck is the original deck?
Yeah, we're pretty confident that it is,
It
yes.
is.
Yeah.
Maybe 20 years.
So do you have a 20 years? Wow, you know.
93, wasn't it? when
Yeah,
that was
That's
built?
when the Air,
91.
92.
is that when they built that? Or is that when the Air Force left?
93 was when they left.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was late eighties when they built it.
Yeah,
I would think so. Go
I
back
think
further
so.
than 93, yeah.
Yeah.
so. And we probably have better treated lumber now than they had then.
I make a motion to go forward with the engineering and plan for rebuilding the wooden deck with, bids for variable materials.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Weed with support from Mr. Hinckley that we do go ahead with seeking engineering for the Warrior Pavilion deck. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes?
Mr. Bayesky?
Yes.
Mr. Dombrowski?
Yes.
Mr. Crosby? Yes. Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Fire?
Yes. Motion carried. Next is the approval of SAW grant application.
Yes, I've attached some correspondence to my report from Spicer indicating that the township is now on the funding list for a SAW grant, which means basically that we've been approved for funding, specifically $850,000 for development of an asset management plan, $72,000 some odd dollars for design engineering for our wastewater S2 program, and $15,000 for user fee studies. That's the good news. The bad news, if there is any, is that we're down the list of ways and probably will not have access to the funding till 2016. It's possible we'll have it in 2015, but we're not certain the amount of grant dollars that the folks above us have committed to them, and that'll drive where we wind up on the schedule. We can, having said that, however, be reimbursed for design engineering expenses after the fact if we were to proceed with our S2 SRF project plan. Under an ideal scenario, we would complete the SAW asset evaluation process on a parallel course and prior to submitting the SRF project plan so that we could roll the funding into one bundle. There's some question as to whether we can do that now, given the compliance deadline and the wastewater permit. It does not look like we could accomplish that because we actually would need to be applying for the funding by July 1st. Given that, a preliminary inquiry has been made by RAZD Engineering regarding pushing the compliance deadline and the permit out, and MDEQ is willing to entertain that. So as we sit here tonight, we don't have a definite answer, but I think as a first step, that's a positive thing. So there is some potential to get some breathing room and then better coordinate the SAW and the SRF. If that doesn't happen, we'll have to take a two-phased approach and implement the SRF and then look at ways to fund the SAW improvements that the board accepts as being necessary through a second funding mechanism. The second component of this topic then is potential necessity to hire an engineer to implement the SRF project plan. We're contracted with RAZD through completion and submission of the plan itself. That plan, unfortunately, is still under review. We had hoped DEQ would be done with that process by now. And one of the items on the board table in terms of the multi-page attachment is a schedule. And if you had a chance to look at it, you would note that originally we envisioned scheduling a public hearing in February and holding it this month. So we're falling behind, and we're encouraging them to complete the review. That would have allowed for a more tidy handoff to a new engineering firm if a final plan could have been available when the transition occurred. But it is obviously not, and we are going to be needing to get an engineer on board soon. When we had originally talked about this subject last fall, you might recall, the idea was that at that time we would negotiate a contract with FVOP or F&V Engineering to do a SAW and combined wastewater system engineering approach. That did not pan out. The Spicer Group stepped into the breach on short notice, completed the SAW grant application for us, and at the time we talked about needing to revisit the situation, and the two basic options would be at that point in time issuing an RFP for engineering services or negotiating with the Spicer Group, and basically we've arrived at that point. If we were to solicit proposals, it would give us assurance as to getting the most cost-effective engineering proposal, at least a relatively high level of comfort in that regard, I would think, because of the competition and comparative benefits. Obviously, the qualifications of any firm we might select would be just as important, if not more, but there is some benefit in that process from a cost check, if you will, standpoint. It would also provide the opportunity to get a fresh set of eyes on our needs in the community and the entire S2 SAW scenario. On the other hand, there is a linkage between the SAW grant and the work that needs to be accomplished there and the SRF plan and our wastewater system improvement plan, specifically as it relates to the lagoon. So Spicer's involvement with the SAW grant would be of benefit and probably would ease that transition. They have also demonstrated in the past repeatedly through competitive selection process that they're cost competitive. We've hired them in recent years to do a number of things ranging from the pier to our water system to our rec plan, et cetera. And my recollection is each of those times we solicited competitive proposals. So they've demonstrated that they would at least be in the ballpark. And as of today, I spoke with one of the company representatives, and they would be looking at something in the neighborhood of 15% total for engineering. Probably 8% design, 7% construction. They would work for the design fee that's in the grant, or based on that budget. If the budget increased, they would obviously be looking for a larger fee. So that compares, as you might recall, to our discussion last fall, wherein each one of those components ranged between 8 and 12%. So the total would have been 16 to 24. So at least at first blush, that appears to be reasonable. The other question relative to Spicer then is a judgment on the board's part as to the quality of the services that they've rendered in the past. And I would suggest that if there is a positive view as to the services, we consider negotiating with them moving forward. But in either case, whether it's competitive selection or negotiation with Spicer, it seems important that we establish a direction and pursue it soon. So that is what I'm seeking relative to this item specifically, is guidance as to which approach to procuring services you would like to pursue.
All right, do we have any thoughts here? And Spicer did kind of bail us out on this, F&V's charges to submit the application for the SAW grant was a little high. Spicer said, we'll do that for you.
They did.
And we got over $750,000. They must have done this right, I would say. So, do we have any strong thoughts or weak thoughts? Or?
I'll make a motion to go forward with Spicer Engineering.
Support.
Okay, the motion by Mr. Weed with support from Ms. McGuire that we do go ahead and negotiate a price, right? That,
Correct.
yeah, with Spicer. And anything else? Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Mr. Pankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes. Motion has passed, and next we go to a couple of DPW items, really. Backhoe reverser replacement on a large backhoe we have.
Yes, Mr. Hamlin's been busy lately. The reverser unit on our 1990 backhoe failed recently, and we've obtained competitive quotations from several vendors to repair or replace the unit, and those quotes are set forth in the bid tabulation sheet. The challenge here is until the backhoe is taken apart, we don't know if the unit can be repaired or it needs to be replaced, and that would be with a rebuilt unit. And depending on which assumption you utilize, you have a different apparent low bidder. In the case of the repair, that would be Northern Truck of Oscoda. In the case of the replacement, that would be Bridgeport Equipment. Staff's evaluation of the situation, all told, that we would be better to keep the machine in town for repair, since we aren't going to know exactly where things stand until it's torn apart. That would be based on the premise that we're hopeful it will need to be repaired instead of having the unit replaced. If it turns out that it does need to be replaced, there will be a slightly higher cost locally than there would have been going out of town. But we just won't know until we get to that point.
Okay. So all in favor of, well, I mean, do you want to attempt the repair, or do you want to just go to a new one, which would be a rebuild? It's not brand new out of the crate.
I'll move we go ahead with Northern Truck for the repair.
For the repair. Okay.
Repair.
All right. The motion is that we go with local guy, Northern Truck, Mr. Graham. And that was supported, motion by Binkowski and supported by Mr. Gieske, and it's a repair. Roll call, please.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Pankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Dwyer?
Yes. Motion carried, and Bob's last item deals with a tire changer machine for the DPW.
Yes, we actually have some competitive quotations for a tire changer and a balancing machine. We had budgeted in the capital improvement plan $15,000 to meet these expenditures. Staff took a look at various models of machines out there, settled on the Coates tire changer and balancer units. They believe those would be the most appropriate, meeting our needs, easiest to operate, etc. 3 quotations for each of the machines were obtained, and we also got a quote through the State of Michigan My Deal program for a different piece of equipment to give you some perspective. The apparent low bidder is All Automotive in Nunica, Michigan. However, if we apply the local preference provision in our purchasing policy, the actual low bidder for both machines on a combined basis is Johnson Auto Supply of Oscoda at a cost of $6,323.70.
Okay, and Johnson Auto Supply is the Napa dealer next to McDonald's.
It is.
Okay. All right. Do we have thoughts or motions on this? Questions?
Mr. Do they change? I'm seeing that I pay a lot of bills to different places for tire changing. If they just use this strictly for tire changing, it comes out to about 524 tires, it'll pay for itself. Depending on what happens to the tires,
Right.
that could.
Right. Well, frankly, there was a little more question about it when we first discussed it at 15,000, but the cost benefit at 6,000 is quite a bit higher.
I think the way they do it now is if they get new tires for police cars or whatever, they can put them on themselves, but then they have to take them to a garage to get them balanced right now, right? And you don't save any time, you don't save any money, so,
I make a motion to purchase both pieces of equipment through Johnson Auto Supply.
all right.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Weed and support by Mr. Binkowski. That we do go ahead with the Napa dealer Johnson Auto Supply for the total amount of $6,323.70. Roll call when ready.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Mrs. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Craftsville, yes. Mr. Pankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Lyle?
Yes. All right, next we move to Ann Richards, the Community Development Coordinator. She has an item that appears to be a welcome one, you know.
Good
the
news for a change.
Final invoices from the 2012 construction.
Okay.
We hope.
Right, yeah. At the January 13th, and excuse my voice, I'm having a little sinus thing here, so if I apologize ahead of time, but, excuse me, at the January 13th meeting, I made the board aware that the township had received an invoice in the amount of $2,184.13 for the 2000 road project. At the time of that same meeting, I explained that this invoice amount was generated based on recent, well, at that time recent, December 2013, reconciliation that the contractor and MDOT had come into in regard to several components of the project, specifically involving exploratory vertical digging in the water main stormwater drainage work that resulted in additional costs up and above the original bid. In addition to presenting this invoice, I also explained that the Alpena TSC office had indicated that based on their calculations, additional invoices to the township may be forthcoming. At that time, we anticipated about $17,000 in invoices based on an amount they thought we still owed and our percentage of sharing, which was 9.075% of the cost, and then a amount for construction engineering. So I was directed by the board to seek a final accounting on the township share of the project before the board would consider authorizing any additional payments to the state. Since the time of that meeting, I've been in contact with both the Alpena TSC office, the manager of the regional MDOT office, which is located in Gaylord, and the Lansing billing office in an effort to bring this project to close. And as Jim alluded to, at this time, I'm pleased to report that we've received a final project settlement invoice, which was included in my board packet, along with an email from Brenda Ingersoll, who is the individual that handles the accounting out of Lansing. And this now represents the total amount due to close out the project. The amount of this new invoice is slightly less than the previous invoice amount by about $110. The additional charges that the Alpena TSC office thought were coming, which was $85,400, ended up being accounted for in the betterment section of the billing. This is the cost associated to upgrade to a larger water main system. So again, you have one office that's doing the bill or settling, I should say, with the contractor, and then you have the Lansing office that's doing the billing, and they don't really communicate with each other as to how that all comes out to us. So in all fairness to the Alpena office, they thought by the project total cost that we'd still be getting $85,400 in billing, and we weren't going to be getting that much anymore because it was accounted for in the betterment. Does everybody understand what the betterment is? It was the difference of, I think, was it 8-inch to a 8-inch to a 12-inch main, and then all the valves to go along with that. So that was the betterment charge. So to break it down again, to close out, and we'll have that, it says final accounting, we will not receive any more billing, would be a total of $2,074.19 to close that project. So.
Yay and, yay and.
Or,
Be happy to wrap that up.
Who made the motion? You? Okay.
Yeah.
Motion by Ms. McGuire with support from Mr. Weed.
Yeah.
Can I put you on the spot? How is Osable doing with this?
Well, we're getting together next week. They're
Okay.
going to see us next week.
Are they? But you're getting,
tuned.
you're getting close. Film at 11, right?
Yeah. Lansing and us and Alpena.
Oh.
Our place.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Names, please.
Mr. Kowski?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Kowski?
Yes.
Ms. Crosby? Yes, Mr. Fire?
Yes. All right. Motion has passed. Next, we move to resolutions and ordinances, and we have one resolution, that would be 2014-03. Robert?
Yes, based on discussion at the recent work session, it was staff's assumption that we were going to proceed in resubmitting the passport grant application for the skate park. We've accordingly begun putting that together. It's due by the end of the week. We've got an updated cost from the vendor. I've attached a copy of the current drawing of how the skate park would be configured in theory anyway. We will need to take bids, but this is one vendor's idea of how it would look with this particular budget. The total cost of the project is going to be approximately $42,000. The resolution would have us pledging to commit $16,800, which is 40% of the total project cost. That's an increase from last year wherein we pledged 25%. We're trying to give ourselves the best chance possible to receive funding.
And this sometimes works. Evidence the peer, right? We went to 40% that we would contribute, and we got, what, $460,000?
We do.
Almost $500,000. So I think they like it when people step up to the plate, kind of, so. Okay, do we have a motion to,
I'll move that
Go
we
ahead.
accept resolution 2014-3.
Support.
okay, motion by Ms. McGuire with support from Mr. Hinckley, that we do accept and support, authorize Resolution 2014-03. Roll call, please.
Mr. Crosby? Yes. Mr. Kowski?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Kowski?
Yes.
Mr. Fire?
Yes. Resolution has been adopted. Okay. Now, under other, we had an agenda addition, and Mr. Binkowski was not here 2 weeks ago and has some thoughts about a matter that we voted on regarding our audio-visual deal, adjusting this room in some way. And Rick, go ahead.
Well, just with things that have been happening with the building, I would like to see us just postpone this at least until our work session, so we can all talk about it and be all on the same page with it. Especially after tonight, the meeting room's so full. I think, that's one thing that we would want to look at too.
Well, you're asking for an adjustment of something that did pass,
Yes.
so I think we need to have, if you're asking for some more time.
I would just like to see us, if we could, reconsider this until the next, I'd like to make the motion
Okay.
that we reconsider it until our work session and then deal with it after that.
I would
Support.
support from Mr. Weed, and
Yes.
motion made by Mr. Binkowski that we do kind of put this on the back burner until we have another work session coming up in April and talk about this a little more.
So basically reconsider the previous vote and post, and then discuss it in the work session.
Correct.
Leading to discussion.
Have you heard anything, Bob, on the if and maybe item?
Okay. No big secret, folks. There's a party that would like to buy this building. So we're wondering whether we should make any adjustments to the building if a sale is pending, so.
Possibly pending.
Possibly, yeah, it's just, It's kind of like the barge off Oscoda Beach Park. It's out there. Yeah. I can't stir people up anymore. Okay. All right. All right, let's have a roll call then.
Mr. Gieske.
Yes.
Ms. McGuire.
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley.
No.
Mr. Weed.
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Pinkowski.
Yes.
Mr. Byer.
Yes, motion is passed. Okay, we are to our second and final public comment. Yes.
I hate to do this. But the number that you gave me is the person that told me, as I looked at my notes, nothing to do with private or non-certified roads, call a lawyer. So what can I do to get to my house?
I
How
will,
many houses are on the road?
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry.
Over 10 that I
10
know,
or
that I'm
12.
aware of. I have signatures of almost everyone. And let me, I've
The
got,
first thing would be to figure out if it's a private road or not. wouldn't it?
Right.
when I went to the township,
oh, this is the township.
well, the office,
To Nancy,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
assessor?
yes. She was upset with me that my driver's license said that it was Oakland Road. I told her I had nothing to do with that, and my concern was the use, because it is a private road. Not only, I do believe when the school uses it, that makes them, like, say if the bus got in a wreck or something on a private road, you know, that might cause issue. I do believe it has to be a maintained road by law. And because it is a private, as far as I have found out, and it is not maintained by the county, my question is where can I go other than a lawyer? And I feel it's Oscoda High School's damage that has caused this issue, but it's wrong for us residents to not be able to get to our homes at present.
Okay. Well, when the meeting is over, which is pretty quick, would you give me, you don't have to do it now, give me a phone contact number, and I will do a little digging on this, both with the school and the Iosco Road Commission, and I will get back to you with whatever I find out.
All right, when I called the school, they did say they would try to stop using it, but the issue was the children in the back, and like I said earlier, they don't even have to walk from here to the door out of here, out of this building,
Yeah.
so it's
Well,
not that far.
the more phone calls, the better.
I thank you so much.
Okay. All right, is there anyone else in the audience that has any comment or anything? Okay. Yeah, well, thank you for staying. We thought you were holding your ammunition here, and World War II coming up. Anyway, any board comment? Anything? All right. Yes.
One more quick thing, just a suggestion, hempcrete would be eco-friendly for your dock project or the pavilion type thing, it's just a suggestion.
What is it?
Hempcrete, it's biodegradable, made of hemp,
Oh, hempcrete.
yes,
Okay, we'll look into that. So,
thank you.
yep. Once again, anybody else? All right.
Me,
Yes.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I just want to mention the Oscoda Community Center is offering a spring break special to those individuals that are not able to leave town for spring break. 10 days for $10. It'd be a good deal. So Friday night, Friday's the first day that classes get out, so I believe that's the 28th.
Yep.
Quote me on that. And then through Sunday, is it the 6th, I think? Is that what? 7th?
You're right.
Okay, the 6th. So through that, so 10 days, $10. And it'll be on the message sign probably starting tomorrow, but,
Okay.
okay, thank you.
And Bob, you are gonna contact the fireworks vendor and tell them we want land launched instead of water launched.
So we have more money. Yes.
Is there a time, I mean, we talked about the $3,000 and it's an ongoing open contribution deal. is there some kind of a deadline that we could say, you know, if you're inclined to contribute, you have to do this by the end of March or April Fool's Day or something like that?
I think given the fact that they are a wholesaler of the fireworks, it could be pretty close to the 4th, where the cutoff would
Really?
be. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then at least let them know that we have an ongoing fundraiser. And so I think this is great that the community is willing to stand up and put some skin in the game here, and great. So,
Thank you for the board for
mhm.
meeting us halfway.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Anything else from the board? If not, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned.